I have talked about struggling with seasonal hair loss quite a bit on this channel. In fact, a couple of years ago, I made a whole video on seasonal hair loss. Now, I may have experienced seasonal hair loss my whole life, but the first time I realized I was shedding excessively was about 14 years ago. Back then, seemingly out of nowhere, suddenly every time I washed or brushed my hair, I ended up with clumps of hair in my hands. Needless to say, that stressed me out. So the first thing I did back then is to take several blood tests to test my sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, my thyroid and adrenal hormones, and my iron levels, knowing that one or several of those being low or imbalanced could cause hair loss. When my test results came back with all my hormone levels and my iron being in perfect range, I then tried every supplement available on the market promising to address hair loss, as well as every topical promising to do the same. When none of those had any effect on my excessive shedding, I eventually cut my hair short, rationalizing that the shorter my hair, the less of it will end up in my hands when washing and brushing it, on my bathroom floor, my pillow, my clothing, and so on. Now, I tried to not stress out over this excessive shedding, which was easier said than done, knowing that stress, of course, can also cause hair loss. Strangely, or at least it seemed strange at the time, as seemingly sudden as my excessive shedding started, it stopped, which, of course, I was immensely relieved by. Unfortunately, what seemed like just a few months later, the excessive shedding returned. And once more, I tried every supplement, as well as topical, available on the market, promising to address hair loss. And being such a big fan of microneedling, I even tried microneedling my scalp on a regular basis. Unfortunately, neither the regular microneedling nor any of the supplements or topicals I purchased had any effect on my excessive shedding. But just like the first time around, or at least the first time I realized I was shedding excessively, after a few months, the excessive shedding suddenly stopped. Now this went on for a few times until I realized there is a pattern here. I finally realized that every year, starting at about the beginning of July, when the weather warmed up, till about the beginning to end of October, is when I seem to be losing hair in clumps. So I finally did some research and I came across this study. For this study, 823 otherwise healthy females were observed over a period of 6 years. And the study concluded that the majority of participants experienced excessive hair shedding in summer. This study also showed that participants experienced a second peak, though far less pronounced, in spring, and that telogen rates, or excessive hair shedding, were lowest in late winter. So this study confirms that there is such thing as seasonal hair loss. And once I came across the study, I felt a bit relieved, realizing that what I seemed to be experiencing year after year wasn't just somewhat normal and something many of us, if not most of us, females experience, but it was temporary. However, still, year after year, come about the beginning of July, when once more I started finding my hair all over my bathroom floor, on my pillowcase, my clothing, and bunches of it in my hands. After washing or brushing my hair, I freaked out. And once more, year after year, I spent I don't know how much money on supplements and topicals promising to address hair loss, which I hadn't tried yet. And I even repurchased some I had already tried, hoping that this time they would make a difference. None of the supplements or topicals I purchased had any effect on my excessive shedding until about 2 years ago. when I came across the Calecim Advanced Hair Care System, which about 2 years ago, I actually made a whole video on. So I won't go into too much detail. I will link that video down below in case you missed it. But the Calecim Advanced Hair Care System is basically a hair restoration program designed to reduce shedding and hair loss by stimulating hair growth at the follicle level. It utilizes a stem cell-derived protein complex called PTT6, which the company claims contains over 3,000 bioactive molecules, including growth factors, cytokines, and exosomes, which are supposed to help restore optimal follicle function and extend the hair growth cycle. Like I said, I made a whole video on this, in which I explain in detail what this is, where it comes from, and I also show how to use it. But in a nutshell, this is a topical serum which gets microneedled into the scalp. Calecim has some really impressive before and after pictures on their website. And while I unfortunately don't have any before and after pictures for you, I can tell you that this is the only topical product I have tried. And like I said, in the last 14 years, I must have tried every topical product available on the market, promising to address hair loss as well as supplement. None of them did anything. This is the only topical product I have tried that has actually made a difference with my seasonal hair loss. Now, I know some of you are going to ask if I tried topical minoxidil. That might be the only topical product I haven't tried. However, would the Calecim serum not have worked, I probably would have tried that next, because I have heard from some of you that you have had great results using topical and or oral minoxidil. However, since the Calecim Advanced Hair Care System is working so well for me, I'm going to stick with that one. But if you have had good results using topical and or oral minoxidil, please share your experience down below in the comments. So for the past 2 years, from July through October, I was using the Calecim Advanced Hair Care System. And while it didn't completely stop my seasonal hair loss, it cut it in about half. It made it a lot more manageable and a lot less stressful. However, it is now the middle of August, and this is the first year in 14 years, or possibly longer, but like I said, for the past 14 years, I have noticed that I shed excessively every summer. This is the first summer I have 0 excessive hair shedding, 0 seasonal hair loss. What I have done is, again, starting July, I started using the Calecim Advanced Hair Care System. And this year I combined it with red light therapy. I've talked about this red light therapy cap before in other videos. This is a red light therapy cap by higher dose. You can see it has quite a few LEDs in here. All you do is turn it on and you wear it for 10 minutes a day. It's super comfortable and easy to use. And if you've been here for a little while, you know I'm a huge fan of red light therapy, and I use it for skin rejuvenation as well as for injury recovery. However, red light therapy has also shown promise as a treatment for hair loss, particularly androgenic alopecia. Several studies have actually shown that red light therapy can be effective for individuals with androgenic alopecia, but studies also suggest that red light therapy can help increase hair density, thickness, and overall scalp health. Now, when it comes to red light therapy for hair loss, you want to look for a wavelength between 630 to 670 nanometers. This range is widely studied and used for stimulating hair follicles and promoting hair growth. There are now many red light therapy devices for the scalp available on the market. I've tried several different ones. Some are more comfortable than others, and prices vary greatly as well. What I like about this higher dose red light therapy cap is that it is super comfortable, easy to use, and almost cute. I could go out on the street wearing this without getting strange looks. It does have 120 medical grade LED bulbs, and the wavelength is 650 nanometers. But again, there are now so many different red light therapy devices for the scalp available on the market. Or if you already have a red light therapy panel, you could stand in front of that, making sure it covers your scalp. Or you could even do what one of my friends does. She uses her red light therapy face mask on her scalp with great results. Again, you just want to make sure that the wavelength is between 630 and 670 nanometers. And that it, of course, covers your scalp. But for me personally, combining the Calecim Advanced Haircare System, which again, by itself, already made quite a difference with my seasonal hair loss. Again, it cut it in about half, making it a lot more manageable and less stressful. But combining this with the regular use of red light therapy has made all the difference. Once more, it is now the middle of August, and this is the first year in 14 years, or possibly longer, I am not shedding excessively. I am not struggling with seasonal hair loss. In fact, I washed my hair yesterday, and I took a picture of how much came out. I will put it right here. As you can see, hardly any, which I'm so relieved by. So combining the Calecim Advanced Haircare System with the regular use of red light therapy has made a huge difference for me. And the way I combine these two is right now twice a week after washing my hair. I use half a bottle of the Calecim Advanced Haircare System. So last night I used half of this bottle and I stamp it into my scalp. Like I said, I made a whole video on this in which I also show how I use this. I will link it down below. But right now, twice a week, after washing my hair, I stamp half a bottle of this into my scalp. And then this red light therapy cap lives in my kitchen. It sits on my kitchen counter. And when I get up in the mornings, I put this on, I turn it on. This is a 10-minute program. I forgot if I already mentioned that. But in the 10 minutes I'm wearing this, I drink my water, take my supplements, make my protein pudding. Once I'm done with all of that, the program is usually up. Now, one last thing I want to mention here is that aside from the things I mentioned earlier, such as stress, an imbalance in sex hormones, as well as thyroid or adrenal hormones, and low iron levels, other nutritional deficiencies, aside from low iron, can of course also cause hair loss. And of course, genetics can also play a role. So these are all things we need to take into consideration when struggling with hair loss. And sometimes, as it was in my case, it can be quite challenging to figure out what is causing the excessive shedding. That's why I believe taking blood tests, as well as taking a good look at our overall nutrition and stress level, might be beneficial when struggling with hair loss. So I hope this video was helpful. I would love to know, have you or are you currently struggling with hair loss, seasonal or otherwise? And if so, have you found a solution? If yes, that is awesome. Please share in the comments what it is that helped you. Have you tried the Calecim Advanced Haircare System or red light therapy or a combination of the two? Let us know down below. Any other questions or comments? Of course, please leave them down below. Always love to hear from you. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, bye.